Oh, who said it could ever be easy? We know this, don't we? What's up, Eagles Nation? Oh wow, find another way to win. They're 12-2, and they wrap up a first round bye, and at least no worse than the second seed. But to get the number one seed, all they have to do is win one of the next two games, which are at home, as we know, Christmas night against Oakland, and then New Year's Eve day, afternoon rather, against Dallas. So more than likely you win one of those two games, which I believe they will, and or the Vikings lose one of their next two, which the next game they play, I believe it's at Green Bay, and now Aaron Rodgers is back, so that's not going to be as easy a game as it may have been a few weeks ago. But we'll see. The Eagles may even have it all wrapped up by that game. By Christmas night if the Vikings lose at Green Bay, I believe. So look, it was a tough game. There's a lot of things to talk about. We know over the week we're going to be kind of going on about the defense and the struggles, and I get that, and it is warranted. I mean, look, the defense played poorly tonight. There was opportunities there to be made. Again, Nigel Bradham has a ball go through his hands they should have picked off. I think you do see the absence of Jordan Hicks in those situations because Jordan's such a big playmaking linebacker. He probably catches that ball, right? But it is what it is. Injuries have played a big role in this season. But even with all that, this team still finds ways to win. It's unbelievable. Um, a lot to talk about. I think the main two talking points here are Nick Foles and the defense. And the fact, of course, and congratulations to the Eagles, too, because, look, going from where we were just a few seasons ago to 12-2 and a first round bye, which means they're going to be deeper into playoffs than we've been in a long time. Guaranteed at least to get to the divisional round that this team has not played in since 2008, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, when they beat the Giants in the Meadowlands and then lost the following week in the NFC title game against the Cardinals, of course. Um, but they find a way to get a win to wrap up a first round bye. Last week, of course, they won the NFC East Division championship by virtue of that win against the Rams. And now it's, of course, wrapping up a division first round bye and at least a divisional game here. And I do believe they'll wrap up home field next week. Certainly, if for any reason not then, the following week. Because I do think there's a very good chance that they, if anything else, they can win one of the next two at home. They're very good at home, and that's one of the reasons I do believe, even without the players that they've lost throughout the season, of course, Carson Wentz being the most recent, I believe that they still have a very good chance to make some noise in the playoffs and have a shot. Have a shot to get to that big game in February, right? With two home playoff games. And I know that this has become one of the toughest places for an opposing team to play. It's a great home field advantage. They're undefeated so far this season at home, and it has been it's really helped them. It's helped them. These fans have been tremendous, and the fans deserve a salute too. Those fans that were there today, making noise, chanting defense, defense. It was awesome. It was awesome to see on TV. I didn't go to the game, but I watch most of the games right here, and I'm watching it, and it's at times it sounded like it was the Link. So big shout out to the fans that made it there. Big shout out to the fans that made it to the game, last week against the Rams and have been traveling, the Green Legion and all those guys and gals that get out to the games. It's awesome. It really is. We have been given a special season, even with the injuries, even with everything this team has had to overcome. They're 12-2. And, we can dissect this game a million different ways, but the bottom line is, in this league, it's tough to win. It just is. And we see it every week. Teams that have no right losing games, lose games. Teams are given breaks. I mean, I see the Patriots win a game tonight with one of the biggest breaks that you can get. And it's just unbelievable. And some teams like the Patriots, it just seems to be that's what happens. But the Eagles are given a lot of breaks, too, this season to get wins. And bottom line to me, and I know the defense struggled, and there's no excuses for it, The Giants are one of the worst teams in the league, offensively as well. And they gave up big plays to the Giants. And look, the Giants have played their two best games against the Eagles this season. For whatever reason, for whatever it's worth, they have played probably their two best games offensively this season was against the Eagles. They've racked up the most points, the most yards in a game. Both of them came against the Eagles, but the Eagles found a way to win both of them. And at the end, when Jim Johnson used to say this, right? The bend but don't break defense, right? You go all the way down into the 20, and then that's where you don't score. And where this defense had to make the stop, they made the stop. So, give them credit for that. I mean, Ronald Darby had a rough game, but he had a big interception during the game. It was tough. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat this. This defense has to play better. And they're capable of playing better. They must play better. No doubt about that. But more about the defense a little later. I want to talk about Nick Foles. Nicky Six, okay? I know, and in no way, shape, or form am I saying that the Carson Wentz injury isn't going to matter. I know there might be fans that say, well, look, they still put up 31 points. Carson Wentz wasn't there. We got Nick Foles, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Great game. Yeah, he had a great game. Listen, Nick Foles knows this offense. Nick Foles' rookie year, Doug Peterson was the quarterback's coach. He goes to St. Louis in a stupid trade by Chip Kelly. But then again, if he doesn't make that trade, we don't have Carson Wentz. So, but at the time, look, he goes to a situation on offense he's just not familiar with, okay, has a bad year. Okay, but I look at the two other quarterbacks that were under Jeff Fisher a year ago and what they're doing this season, and Jared Goff and Case Keenum, both of which are going to be in the playoffs. Both of which are on teams that won division titles. And Nick Foles, who was there a few years ago, goes to Kansas City last year, comes in and plays with the injured Alex Smith, has 2 pretty good games. Back in a system that he's familiar with, the West Coast offense, Andy Reid, a situation that he was familiar with the system, familiar with the offensive play calling, and he thrived in it. Okay? Comes here as a free agent, which, if the Eagles were going to get anyone to back up Nick Foles, I mean, are we not happy as anything that at least it's to back up Carson Wentz, rather? Are we not happy that it's Nick Foles and not what was Chase Daniel? Huh? Yeah, I'm pretty thrilled that hey, it could have been Daniel back there, okay? Backing up Carson this year. So it was a great move by Howie. Look, you never want to hope for an injury. You never want to get a guy and say, well, this guy's going to get hurt, and that's why we got this guy. But you want to put your team in the best situation possible, where there is a backup plan. Okay, where if your starter goes down, who by the way is having an MVP caliber season, 10-2, team when he goes down. Of course, they won 11-2, now 12-2. He goes down, but at least you have Nick Foles, who finished off that game, made a big third down pass last week to Aguilar, and now this week has a 4 touchdown, no interception game against the Giants. Now, are they all going to be perfect like this? No. But I've told people this week. I don't think I said this in the vid last week. If this team loses in the playoffs, it's not going to be because of Nick Foles. Nick Foles is not going to lose you a game. If this team loses in the playoffs, it's more than likely going to be because the defense isn't making stops. Okay? And it's critical in the playoffs to get stops. Okay? Let's not forget the last time the Eagles were in the playoffs in 2013, the year before I started this series. Nick Foles was the quarterback, and that was his 27-2 season. And it wasn't his fault they lost the game. They lost the game. He gave them the lead late. They lost the game because the special teams gave up a decent return by now Eagle Darren Sproles, and had a horse collar penalty. They gave him even more yards, put him close to midfield. And then it was basically the Saints running the same kind of plays over and over again that the Eagles' defense couldn't stop, getting the Saints in the field goal range, and they made a last-second field goal. Again, you can't blame Nick Foles in that game. Now, let's not forget also in that game, Riley Cooper, if he just would have caught that pass on a crossing pattern, he would have gone in for a touchdown. And if everything else works out the way it did, the Saints would have had to score a touchdown at the end and not a field goal. Now, maybe they still do. Who knows? But in that situation, all they needed was a field goal, and they got a good return by Sproles. The horse collar gives them an extra 15 yards. And then, basically, if I remember correctly, it was just hand the ball off, and then Drew Brees having quarterback keepers for, until they got to the field goal range, and then won it on the last-second field goal. And give the Saints credit, they won that game, okay? But it wasn't because of Nick Foles why the Eagles lost that game. It was a drop pass by Riley Cooper and a special teams mistake, and defensive not stopping the Saints there to get them in the field goal range. That cost them the game. And it's not to say something like that couldn't happen again. It could. Playoffs, we see it all the time. Things happen. The best team doesn't always win. Right, Dallas fans? Last year? It still brings a smile to my face. But look, all things aside, Nick Foles is the right quarterback for this offense. If what happened, okay, and we did lose Carson Wentz to the season, I still feel horrible for him because he was having a great year, and this team was so fun to watch with him there, and it was. It's a tough blow. It really is. But since that did happen, I'm glad at least there was a better backup behind him, a quarterback that knows this offense, that knows this system, knows the head coach, knows the fan base, okay, has worn the uniform before, has won in the uniform before, knows what it is. And if anything else, nothing against Carson. Don't get me wrong, nothing against Carson. But if anything else, going forward into the playoffs, at least now they have a quarterback that's been in the playoffs before, albeit one game, but has been there, has seen it, has been a part of it. Well, he was on Kansas City last year as a backup too, experiencing some playoffs with the Chiefs. So he knows what playoff football is all about. And again, I'm not saying that Carson Wentz couldn't have, won games in the playoffs, obviously. If he played the way in the playoffs they did in the regular season, I mean, obviously, look, they're going to the Super Bowl. No doubt about it. But Nick Foles does know what it is to be in the playoffs. He's played in the playoffs before. And if there was, again, as horrible a situation it was that Wentz got hurt, at least not only do we have a quarterback that's been in this system before and has done well in this system before, but has been a playoff quarterback as well, has been through that. Maybe, not as a starter in like the NFC divisional round or whatever, but at least has had a start in the playoffs. It was on a team last year that went to the playoffs and was part of that. So I think we're in very capable hands with Nick Foles. Is he Carson Wentz? No. Can he do all the things that Carson did? No. But he's not supposed to. He's supposed to be Nick Foles. And as long as he plays within his game like he did today, they'll be just fine offensively. I mean, they put up 31 points and 4 touchdowns and no interceptions today. He is an efficient quarterback. And in this offense, he's certainly an efficient enough quarterback to help us, continue to do the things that we're hoping this team does. That being said, the defense has to step up. And I said this last week. I said, with the fact that Carson's out, with the fact that they scored 31 today, but the fact that more than likely you're not going to be putting up the 30s and 40s every week, the defense has to get stops. And the way this game started, and here's the other thing about this defense that I really hope they correct quickly. It's not just that they have been giving up plays. They have gotten off to slow starts the last 2 weeks, certainly. And they've given up big plays and big drives. The first drive of the game's a touchdown. Just starting out slow. It's like the offense is there. The offense is doing their thing. And it takes a little time for the defense to catch up. And that's got to get better. Because if you do that in the playoffs, you can't always just rely on your offense, as good as they are, with the weapons that they have. You can't rely on an offense to keep bailing you out and getting these touchdowns. I mean, particularly you're playing the playoffs here. What if it snows? What if it's raining? What if it's like weather conditions, or something like that, where you're not going to be guaranteed to have the best field position, field conditions rather, to put up points. You need your defense to get stops. And here's the other thing. Let's say in the playoffs, the Eagles get off to a hot start offensively like they did these last, at least today, and they're scoring touchdowns on their first couple drives. Well, the defense has to stop the other team. You can't just let the other team, mirror what your offense is doing. If your offense is scoring touchdowns, you can't allow the other team to come down the field and pull that momentum right back. Momentum is so important, particularly in the playoffs. So this defense, and I do believe they're capable. I don't know what's going on these last few weeks. This is just, bizarro world, okay, compared to what we've seen for most of the season. But this defense, which is capable of playing better, has got to play better. Has got to play better. It's paramount for that. Okay? And I'm willing to sit here on, the week before Christmas and say, okay, if I'm sitting here the end of January going into February and the defense is playing well, we're not going to remember, this game against the Giants or even the game against the Rams, what the defense is doing, okay? So I'm willing to give this defense the benefit of the doubt. This is one of those situations. It was two of those games. The one thing I will say for the Giants, even though they are a bad team, and they are, let's not make any mistake, any misconstrues here. That's a bad football team, okay? But they do have a quarterback that knows this defense, who has not always looked great against this defense, but for whatever reason this season he did. We didn't see a lot of Eli faces, this year. He wasn't sacked as many times. He did make some mistakes. He threw an interception. Probably should have thrown at least 2 or 3 today. But he played well. He played well in the 2 games. They scored points. It is what it is. It's one of those mystery of life type things. Why is it that the Giants don't do anything against anyone else, yet they play the Eagles and they look like a world beater? I don't know. I can't sit here and tell you because I've seen how this defense has played this season. And again today, look, they stopped the run. They got gashed last week. I had Todd Gurley. Like he killed me in fantasy today. My God, 4 touchdowns. I think the last I saw. If I lose this week, it's because it's Todd Gurley. God, but he does his thing again at Seattle today. And I know Seattle had some injuries on defense, but again, he does his thing this week. He's a great back, and right now, he's in a system that works him too. So is what it is. Sometimes you just got to tip the hat to the other player. Todd Gurley had a great game. Todd Gurley's a great player. He's a Pro Bowl player. He could be an MVP candidate. He could win an MVP award at some point. He's a great back. But today, the Eagles defense stopped the run. But those crossing patterns hurt him. Eli got rid of the ball quick, and even when he didn't, the Eagles were simply not getting enough pressure on him. And this falls on the players because the players always got to execute the game plan. They always got to execute. You put together the greatest game plan in the world. If the players aren't executing it, what good is it? The players got to execute. But this also falls on the coaches and Jim Schwartz. You got to blitz more. You got to put more pressure on the opposing quarterback. You got to take more chances. I know you don't want to get burned deep or the pad, but let's face it, you were getting burned without blitzing. Okay? And I know the Seattle game, they ran the 0 blitz and Russell, saw it coming, got rid of the ball quick, and it went for a big play. But it's like, don't give up. If it fails once, it doesn't mean it's always going to fail. And there were situations today, I'm watching this game, and there's situations where I'm going, look, this offensive line for the Giants is not good. They just aren't. And Eli Manning, it's been proven time and time again when the Eagles have played him and they put pressure on him, he makes mistakes. He fumbles the ball, he throws interceptions. We see a lot of Eli face. Yeah, we see that. But there were situations in this game when the Giants, before those big plays were happening, where it's like, hey, guys, let's throw some blitzes at him. And I know he's a veteran quarterback, and veteran quarterbacks can read the blitz or whatever, disguise them a little bit, do something, change it, make adjustments. And this defense just didn't seem to make adjustments. And Jim Schwartz had another bad, game calling today on the defensive side. You got to adjust. I mean, the things that hurt the Eagles in the first half, if it was continuing the second half and you're not adjusting to it, you're not calling more blitzes, you're not trying to do something different, you're going to continually get beat. And look, the Giants didn't, put up tremendous numbers in the second half like they were in the first half, and they were up 20-7 at one point. Okay? And a lot of the credit in this game also goes to the Eagles special teams. I know last week they gave up a block punt. They had some moments, but today they blocked an extra point. They blocked a field goal, a long field goal attempt, and they blocked a punt. So they gave the offense some pretty good situations, which is good, which is key. Okay? But our defense, you gotta blitz more. You gotta try to put more pressure on the opposing quarterback, because the only way that you're gonna win these games, particularly in the playoffs, is with that pressure. Okay, you got to stop them. You got to stop. Make the opposing quarterback as uncomfortable as you can make him. All right, win at the line of scrimmage. Win at that point of attack. And it's not to say you have to blitz all the time because it's a big blitzing defense, but you got to do it every now and then. It's like today they didn't even try. They were in coverage most of the game, and they were getting burned left and right with these crossing patterns. Guys open down the middle of the field, the tight end, and it's like, guys, adjust, do something different, because what you're doing now isn't working. Eli's picking you apart. Put some pressure on him. Bring some blitzes, disguise some blitzes. Do something different. Adjust. It's the problem we had for all those years with Andy Reid, right? Not adjusting. Well, we have a head coach now that's adjusting, but we have a defensive coordinator that's not adjusting. As a coach, you got to adjust. So my hope going forward, I don't think he's a horrible defensive coordinator. Okay? He's a good defensive coordinator, but he has got to adjust. If something isn't working, you don't keep doing the same thing over and over again. Because if you make that mistake in the playoffs against Drew Brees or against, insert quarterback here, right? I mean, Jared Goff and that offense, or, Matt Ryan, or even Case Keenum, you're going to get beaten. You're going to get beaten because you can't always rely on the offense to score touchdowns, particularly in the playoffs. So this defense has, and they have the personnel still, even with the injuries, they have the personnel to make plays and to make stops and to get turnovers, but they got to get more pressure on the opposing quarterback. And I know Jim Schwartz isn't a big blitzing type of defensive coordinator, but the situation that's laid in front of them now is, look, you don't have Wentz. It's not a knock on Nick Foles. Again, 31 points tonight. But you don't have Wentz. So that means your defense has to be that much more better, and you got to get that much more pressure on the opposing team and get more turnovers so that your offense does have the shorter fields to work with. Not to say this offense can't move the ball down the field. I'm not saying that at all. But it certainly helps when you're given shorter fields, particularly in the playoffs, when all the momentum is so big. And in this home field, you have the momentum going into the game, but you got to keep it. So there are mistakes to learn from. They got to get better. Simple as that. Do I believe they can get better? Yes, I do. But it's about making those adjustments in-game, not just during the week. We're talking about in-game adjustments. And if you're not prepared for a team to put up points on you and they start putting up points on you, you got to adjust. You got to play better. You got to change something. Something's not working. Communication. The guys got to communicate better on the field too. It's like they were lost at times today in the first half. They showed them on TV and they just had this lost look in their eyes. It's like, guys, got to do better. The thing about it is I know that they know this. They got some veterans in there, some veteran leaders like Malcolm Jenkins and Fletcher Cox, and they got to talk. They got to communicate. Kendricks has been in the league for many years. Brandon Graham's been in the league for many years. Been an Eagle for many years. Got to talk. Got to communicate, guys. Got to communicate. Got to do a better job. Tackling. Got to tackle. Got to wrap up. Get pressure on the opposing quarterback, blitz more. Change things up if it's not working. As many times as we say that about the offense and Andy Reid over the years, and why aren't they adjusting? Why is there no second half adjustments? Like I said before, you could say the same thing about the defensive coordinator, defensive coaches. Got to adjust. If it's not working, you got to change it up. At least try to. Look, they survived again today. They overcame it. They won a game. I give them full credit for it. I mean, last year this is probably a loss. Certainly it's a loss 2 years ago. Okay, once they go down 20-7, that was probably the game 2 years ago, if we remember that team. So they've come a long way since that. And I still feel confident in their chances, particularly with the fact they won today. Like, that's a big win. It wraps up a first-round bye. It wraps up at least a home game in the divisional round. And you have to win 1 out of 2 home games now, or the Vikings lose. But 1 out of 2 home games to wrap up the number 1 seed. How about that for a Christmas gift, right? Next week, Monday night, I'm still excited about where this team is going. I'm still happy, with a 12-2, record, but I'm not blind to the problems. And the biggest problem right now is the defense, and there's no way I would have thought this 4 or 5 weeks ago. But the defense has got to play better, and the coaches and the coordinators, they got to adjust. Got to adjust during in-game situations. Because you see the offense doing it. And to their credit, they do. But the defense has got to be right there. It's got to be a collective unit. And it's nice when one side of the ball can pick up for the other. I know at times this year it was the defense doing it. Now the offense, special teams, what have you. That's great. It shows it's a total team. They win with an effort of a total team. That's awesome. But this defense, look, there's screws that need to be tightened. They got to do a better job. The old Andy Reid got to do a better job. But they do. They know they do. There's a lot of veterans on this defense. They played for many years. They know what it is. Got to adjust and got to play better. Got to play better. So I'll be interested to see what happens on Christmas night. I mean, even if they already have it wrapped up, if the Packers, beat the Vikings and they have it wrapped up, I still want to see this team play, hard the next 2 games. Probably their stars won't be out there for most of the game against Dallas, I would imagine. Maybe even next week for like the fourth quarter. So who knows what the situation is. But with that said, I still want to see this team play hard for these next 2 games. Particularly with the fact they're home games. Fans are still going there. They're paying good money. Don't just lay down on games. Even if everything's wrapped up. I know it's going to be a big party atmosphere and everything like that, particularly Christmas night and a New Year's Eve day, But this team's still got to have a good showing because you know what? You want to end the season strong. You don't want to go into some funk here going into the bye week, End the season strong. Finish it off. Be awesome if they can go 8-8, in home games, going into the playoffs with everything coming through Philly. That would be awesome. But I don't know what the situation is going to be that New Year's Eve day game when, if they already have everything wrapped up by then. Kind of like Dallas did a year ago when they came here. Again, finish strong. Get the number 1 seed because I do believe that's going to be very important for this team. The home field advantage, this is one of the top places now. So I look forward to that. Hey man, it's a win, and there are things that they have to learn from it. There are things they have to get better. But I was happy with Nick Foles' performance today. Wasn't overly shocked by it. I know he's good in this situation. I know he's good with this offense and this offensive schemes. This is what he knew for most of his career. So I think he's in the right place, and I think we got the right guy. Unfortunately, we won't have Wentz the rest of the year, hopefully for speedy recovery by him. But if there is a guy to come in for him, I think we got the right guy, Nick Foles. I really do. As I said before, if they don't make it to the Super Bowl, it won't be because of Nick Foles. So, we get another win, 12-2. 34-29 victory at the Meadowlands. Sweep the series with the Giants 2 out of 2. Wasn't easy. Took a 61-yard field goal last time, and now it takes a defensive stop, at the end this time to get a win, but they do it. And again, the good teams still find ways to win games like this, even when everything's not going right. They still find a way to win, and it still says a lot about this team and the makeup of this team. And let's not forget that this was a rough week. Losing Carson Wentz, your MVP, certainly the team MVP, and quite possibly the league MVP if he doesn't go down. Losing him was a big blow. And they had to overcome a lot, and talk about that this week, and then all the talk about, will they bring in another guy, the backup Foles, which I still think they should, just in case. But there was a lot on their minds this week. It's the last game of a 3-game road trip. Hey, a division road game on the road is going to be tough, So I'm glad they got the win. They found a way to do it. It wasn't perfect, but they found a way to get it done. They found a way to wrap up the first round bye, which was important. And now it's about wrapping up home field throughout. And let the road to Super Bowl 52 go through Lincoln Financial Field. 2 home games to get to that big game. And I'm not going to say this team doesn't have a chance to do it if they do get that. So, as always, let's go Birds. Happy holidays, everyone. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Merry Christmas. And Happy Kwanzaa. Happy Festivus. Whatever you want to celebrate. Have a wonderful and happy holiday season. And big win today. Hey, lessons learned. This defense must play better. Okay, we know this. But big win to go to 12-2, wrap up a first-round bye, and now it's about getting to home field. They're 1 win away from it, or a Vikings loss from getting that. So big prize still to come. All right, Eagles Nation, again, happy holidays. I'll see you all after the Christmas Day night game against the... I see you, Pistol. All right, everyone, take care.